Hello, scholars. My name is Dr. Kara Stillen, and the goal of this channel is to make academic subjects easier to understand. In the last video, we talked about psychology and personality. In this video, we're going to talk about social psychology. So what is social psychology? Social psychology investigates how people impact one another in groups and how certain people gain power while others do not. Social psychologists are definitely interested in the relationships that people have with one another, as well as our own personality traits. How much can groups influence a person's behavior? Social psychologists have shown us through various experiments that human beings are definitely influenced by the thoughts and behaviors of the group. When human beings join new groups, they often look to those particular groups to see how they should or should not act. Not only are social psychologists interested in how a group can influence behavior, but what its individual members are thinking and feeling as they interact with one another. Social psychologists like studying subjects like attraction, helping others, prejudice, discrimination, and even aggression. Situationism is the term used for group members whose thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by the people and settings around them. Dispositionism is the term used for a group member's thoughts and behaviors that originate from themselves and their own cognition, emotion, and temperament. Social psychologists find situationism and dispositionism especially interesting because they want to understand if the individual's feelings or if the group's feelings influence human thinking and behavior more. In the United States, most Americans think that their cognition and behavior is the result of our own thoughts and feelings. We believe that we have control over what we do, even if we're part of a group. If we're trying to understand human behavior, though, oftentimes an environment or situation influences us to an extent that we're not even aware of. When human beings do not recognize the extent to which the environment plays a role on our own thinking and behavior, this is known as the fundamental attribution error. Western nations or individualist cultures are the ones most likely to fall into the category of the fundamentalist attribution error. Individuals from collectivist cultures are the least likely to make these errors. One of the reasons why Western cultures often ignore the influence of the group on individual behavior is because they lack knowledge of the situation as a whole. Human beings tend to see things through a very narrow lens known as their own personal point of view. This is why many of us will see issues with a person's personality traits as the reason for something happening versus the environment playing a role in the situation. Let's say a neighbor down the street loses their job. You and your partner are discussing the neighbor's job loss while making dinner that night. You state, well, he or she doesn't exactly get to work on time every morning. Or your partner states, they're kind of dingy. When they mow their lawn, they leave patches of grass everywhere. Notice in both circumstances, the causes of your neighbor losing their job have to do with character flaws we potentially see in the individual. We don't really know much about the neighbor's situation, though. Maybe the economy is about to shift and the business is forced to lay off a quarter of its workers. Maybe business taxes have grown too large and the company's decided to move elsewhere. By not having enough information about the situation, human beings fall into the error of attributing the job loss to personal or character flaws that we think we see in the person. These potential causes that we create are called attribution. Our perspective on how we view a situation can definitely be impacted by what is called the locus of control. If we have an internal locus of control, we believe that we're in charge of our own lives and our decisions. We consider ourselves the driver in our own vehicle. Now, if we have an external locus of control, we believe that we're the passenger in the car and that somebody else is driving the vehicle. We believe that circumstances beyond our control dictate the direction of our lives. When it comes to the locus of control, humans tend to follow a self-serving bias. What this means is that when we succeed, we often attribute this success to our internal characteristics or traits. I'm hardworking, persistent, and dedicated to my work. When we don't succeed at something, we tend to attribute external characteristics to that situation. Well, I didn't get the promotion because nobody cares about me at work and no one wants to see me succeed. The whole system's unfair. The self-serving bias helps a person to keep their self-esteem as high as possible. Westerners tend to be victim blamers as well. When something doesn't go well in someone else's life, we tend to blame it on that person for not making the correct choices. The reason why victim blaming is so disastrous is because not everyone has an equal playing field when they begin life. Some of us are born into families that have lots of wealth, great schools to attend, and lots of technology and resources to learn from. Others of us are born into struggling families whose parents are working multiple jobs in order to just pay the bills and keep the food on the table. The idea that everyone in America has an equal chance to become whatever they want is absolutely wrong. This is known as the just world hypothesis. For those individuals in the US that are homeless or are in poverty, Americans tend to attribute aspects of their situation to their own life choices. They may not take into consideration that those same people might not be homeless if they lived in another country. Not only does this happen to individuals in poverty, but it also happens to women that have been sexually assaulted. When people hear that a woman has been sexually abused, there's lots of people that will think or even say out loud, what does she expect when she dresses like that? What does she think is going to happen when she flirts all the time? Sometimes we'll even look at how attractive the woman is to decide whether or not we believe her story. Every culture is different, but every culture has some sort of social rules that they expect people to follow. A social rule is when a culture shares a certain knowledge and each person plays out that social role. A social role can change over time because nothing is rigid. These social roles come from social norms. Social norms are the rules and expectations concerning how to act, behave, and think to the group's standards. Different groups definitely have different social norms and rules that they expect group members to follow. Social roles and norms help people to know how to behave and act in different settings. A social script is a conversation that is used in a group setting, which is socially acceptable and helps to fulfill certain social roles within a group. Various cultures have different scripts that they use. Scripts are not real, of course, but they are expectational conversations given what we say or should say in a situation. If you've ever known someone that's autistic, social scripts do not come naturally for people with autism. As a wife and mother of 2 children with autism, I've had to write out social scripts for my husband and children about how to call for a doctor's appointment, or how to approach a teacher with a question, or how to check out at the grocery store. Whereas most children learn by watching and mimicking, for whatever reasons, those with autism don't always pick up and learn the scripts by listening. Now, maybe at this point you're thinking, hey, social scripts aren't that important. I don't have to follow a script with different social groups. I can say or do whatever I want. I'm a free person. Sure, I absolutely agree with that to some extent. I would definitely argue with you that you've already internalized much of your social roles and norms by the time you're 4 to 6 years old. Okay, well, that is the end of the first part of this video on social psychology. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please press that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Keep working hard in all your studies, and I will talk with you soon.